Pointe Angels May Angel meeting is coming to order. Oh. You're good. Oh, you want to get a beer? Hello, everybody. Thank you. You get for any point. It's May, and in any normal year, May would be a tapering month for angels, where we saw a peak in March and April, and then rounds that opened late or stayed open late would continue through May, and we'd see the last of them in June, and then we'd all go off on holiday. This is not, as I said last month, usual year. The VCs have all run home with their tails between their legs, leaving all of these deals on these tables for us. And it's an embarrassment of riches. The screening team had a terrible time this month. We had 10 really great companies to look at. And the two best are the ones that are pitching today. But I think time is really in our, and that's our program, it's really in our favor, because just in the last week, we had both the producer and consumer price index reports out of Washington tell us that the soft landing is real. That whatever economic hurt we might have been keeping our powder dry for is not as bad. I'm not an economist, and I don't play one on TV, but we watch these kinds of things when we decide whether we're going to place another bet. And this is a good economic times. Consumer price index below 4.9%. 5 and up is, of course, inflationary, and then wholesale prices, the prices that our ventures pay, is way down, 0.2 instead of 0.3. And credit where due, this is the Fed. This is the Fed doing what the Fed was supposed to do. It did it 6 months ago, and it took that long to filter through the economy and show up on the place. And I'm getting nods out of Liz, who actually knows economics, so I know I'm doing it right here. So very excited about the program today with companies. By an odd coincidence, a large number came from the Centropolis Accelerator. They must be doing something right. Pivot, Hercules, what's the third one? Oh, GEKOT. All coming to us from that silly new smart zone in Southfield that's bolted onto Lawrence Beck University. When we cultivate these kinds of links with universities, with accelerators, we're fishing where the fish are. We're getting access to early and potent deal flow that might not otherwise make it our way. Now again, because the VCs are not very active right now, we still have a lot of extra deals to play with. But cultivating these relationships is something that everyone in this room is doing when you send a note saying, hey, I heard about this company, or I want to bring a guest, or hey, did you see this AI thing that's happening in downtown Detroit in July? All of that chatter getting captured by hungry ears that are connecting dots and making their own bets on what's going to be important and what's going to be fruitful in seasons to come. So keep doing what you're doing, because it seems to be working. I want to call up my friend and colleague, Raju Patel. Raj is founder of Pivot Materials, and remind me where you're at. From Lansing, thank you. You're in a town outside Lansing.
Yeah, Okemos, but
Okemos, thank you. We're all from Michigan here. We know from Okemos. Raj was originally working on materials, and then everybody told him, well, what are they good for? And so he said, well, they're good for this, and they're good for this, and they're good for this. And suddenly, what was a advanced materials play has become a product play. That's the kind of pivot that you make early on in order to ensure that the revenue that you capture is actually yours instead of the other guys. So I applaud you on your pivot, Raj. Thank you for joining us tonight, and please tell us more about 3R pallets and biocomposites.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for
Come close to this mic.
Thank you for having me here today. Today, let's discuss about the problems and solutions of the shipping pallet industry. There is widespread deforestation going on because of extensive use of wood by the shipping pallets. These pallets are not durable, safe, or hygienic. As wood is becoming scarce, there is rise in plastic pallet industry. We just cannot substitute one unsustainable material with another. Both plastic and wooden pallets have higher carbon footprint that makes them unsustainable and overall costly. And the problem is just going to get more worse because by 2030, it is expected the shipping pallet industry is going to get double by the rise of e-commerce industry. That's why Pivot Material is transforming the pallet industry by using agricultural waste to make shipping pallets which are made from biocomposites. This is the world's first biofiber composite pallet. We use bamboo because it's a highly renewable material, availability is abundant, and the more bamboo we use, the less plastic we will be using. And bamboo, while growing, it absorbs tons of CO2. As mechanical properties of bamboo are better, we get better quality products in the end. And in this volatile market where the prices of oil go always up and down, the prices of bamboo are relatively stable, and importantly, it is cheaper than plastic as of now. So our solution to this crisis of pallets is using a bamboo fiber composite pallet that is durable, lightweight, sustainable, eco-friendly, cost-effective, and we are working with a third party to create a closed loop supply chain where at the end of the life of the pallet, we'll bring it back and recycle it again. To compare it with our competitors, we are the first to make the biofiber composite pallet that has a better end of life, and it is more sustainable as there is a problems with plastic and wood. Our proposition to the customers looks much better, and overall, when we see all these considerations, our proposition looks cost effective to the end customers as well. In 2022, the pallet industry was valued at $17 billion, and it is going to estimated to be $28 billion by 2027. So there is a huge market and opportunity here. We are targeting 40 by 48 shipping pallet because it is widely adopted in the industry and has a market share of more than 30%. Our ideal customer is food and beverage, chemicals, petrochemicals, and pharmaceuticals because they have higher requirements for hygienic and cleanliness standards. We have developed a minimum viable product, and attorney is currently in the process of applying the provisional patent. We have done one pilot project, paid pilot project with one of our customers, and we are in discussion with 2 customers. And we are supported by accelerators like 1871 Plug and Play and Accenture. We have a well-developed 18-month plan. We will build up upon our MVP. We are planning to do 2 more pilots. Those are in the pipeline, in the discussion. And parallelly, we will be developing a 2nd generation pallet that will have higher bamboo content and use recycled content. Ideally, that should give a carbon neutral product, but we hope that it will give a carbon negative product. And in 12 months, we plan on commercializing our products. We are a team of innovators passionate about business and environment. We have over 70 years of experience in manufacturing, business, and material science and product development. We are seeking $700,000 for our 18-month runaway, and primarily these funds will be used for R&D, new product development, and sales and marketing. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And if you have any questions, please let me know. These are my contact details.
Previews. There's no Q&A. We stick around afterwards. Raju, have a snack, have a beverage. Oh, and that's our timer. I've got another preview queued up from GEKOT Robotics. GEKOT couldn't be here in person. So this is Dan.
Thanks for the invite, David. Hello, Point Angels. I'm so glad you wanted to learn a little more about what we're doing. Let's go for a ride. Hello, I'm Dan Champo, founder of GEKOT Robotics, coming to you from Detroit. Behind me, you can see rentable electric scooters that you might be familiar with. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of accidents and injuries related to these vehicles, such that cities are now passing new rules regarding their usage. In fact, the city of Detroit is about to pass an ordinance saying that vehicles like these can no longer be ridden on the sidewalks. And guess what? These particular vehicles do not have technology on them that would be able to detect when a vehicle is ridden on a sidewalk. So these vendors and others like them will likely lose their operating permits. Now, GEKOT Robotics solves this problem. It provides the safety technology that cities are requiring. Our system is a suite of controls and sensors that detect when a vehicle is on the sidewalk and sets alerts and notifications to the rider to let them know that they're in violation. But it's not just sidewalk riding. Cities have certain regulations about where you can park these scooters and whatnot. Certainly, rental fleet operators are thinking beyond just lost opportunities and financial impacts as cities implement these regulations. They know that if they don't add these safety features, the very core of their business activities are in jeopardy. So they actively seek technology like ours. We recently experienced this firsthand. The city of Sacramento recently issued an ordinance that all electric scooters must be tethered using an electronic cable lock to a bike rack when they're not in use. So Razor's shared scooter fleet didn't have this technology, and their operating permit was revoked. They had 300 vehicles that they had to recall and furlough their entire staff. So Razor reached out to us to see if we could help them out, and we did. We developed an IoT-enabled lock. That is, the back-end software of Razor's app would actually lock and unlock the tether lock that we developed. So we integrated this right into Razor's back-end, and we delivered 300 units. They paid $55,000 for 300 units, and they were able to get back into their lost market. GEKOT Robotics serves these rental fleet operators by upgrading their vehicles. With added technology, our customers promote safer vehicles, have fewer losses, and receive data for reliability concerns. Most importantly, they have a competitive advantage when they're approaching these markets which require these solutions. Our patented technology is a hazard detection system for light electric vehicles. Think of like a collision avoidance system that you might have in your car, but for e-bikes and electric scooters. The system detects hazards as they're approaching, and the system beeps and blinks, encouraging the rider to take evasive action. Our industry experts are telling us that they fully expect these types of solutions to be required by cities in the future, and GEKOT Robotics is definitely on the forefront of this. No one else is doing anything like this for these small vehicles. I'm here at Oakland University, my alma mater, to tell you a little bit about our product development. Razor USA basically helped us sponsor some research here at Oakland University. This is the same Razor that makes that electric, that kick scooter you might have at home. They also make electric scooters more than anyone else on the planet. And they helped us out. Basically, they gave us some ideas of some products that the market was requiring and asked if we would help develop those solutions, which we did. I had several teams of students here that worked over a year to test out different concepts. And then we had Razor, of course, to come and provide feedback on those ideas. And those are the same ideas that we're now taking to market. So they've been a great strategic partner, and we look forward to them as a strategic customer. They've definitely helped out. They've piloted several of our products so far. So I'm here at Lawrence Tech University with our engineer, Maxine, who's going to tell you about some of the research that she's been working on for GEKOT Robotics.
So yeah, I'm super excited to be working on this project where I get to work on sidewalk detection for e-scooters. I get to use everything that I learned in the past 3 years for my degree, machine learning, artificial intelligence, creating neural networks. I'm really excited.
It's great. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your recent master's degree in computer science.
Thank you.
GEKOT Robotics sells directly to these rental fleet operators. We profit from direct hardware sales, from integration services, and from a monthly SaaS. We manufacture in Flint, Michigan, while all our competitors manufacture in China. And yet, our recent quote to a customer was 40% less than the industry leader. GEKOT Robotics, myself and my team, are dedicated to reducing accidents for short distance transportation.
He squeezed a lot of data into 5 minutes. But one thing he didn't say was, what's GEKOT? It's Great Engineering Kids of Tomorrow. He named his company after the students who were coming up with the ideas for the Racer Challenge. Hope to have him in fundraising mode this fall, and we'll get a crack at it. All right, so that was the warm-up. Now for the main act. The 2 companies that made it through screen this month, I can't say enough about how prepared they were with the way that they submitted their materials, and the materials covered exactly what the screening team needed to see. So we flipped a coin before, and Ecovia won. So it's going first. Just say if you could come up, please, and put up your laptop. I'll answer just 21 seconds.
All right, thank you.
When we first saw Ecovia at Point Angels, it was before their first sale of humectant based on polyglutamic acid to a manufacturer of adult sanitary devices, things that we're familiar with but don't talk about. And what surprised me, and shouldn't have, was the price that they paid for 40 kilograms of material. 40 kilograms of material, less than 100 pounds. They paid $300,000. It's $7,500. Now, this is an early stage, and that's not a production price. But it says at what level the innovation is valued. If you think about diapers in landfills, if you think about the challenges of superabsorbents and moisturizers, the industry is ripe for innovation. And if you're all booted up, you can finish the story I just started.
Okay, thank you, David. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Thank you. Good evening. I'm surprised to hear, David, about how prepared we were. I know we wanted a tune-up, so we went through the NEF tune-up. I hope you have the latest deck, not the old one, because the old one was a 5-minute speed dating kind of deck, and I don't think any of those slides made it to this one. I don't think we kept anything except my name after the tune-up, so I really appreciate it. Luke, you gave me good advice about having energy and smiling, so get used to it. This is my smile. I'm not gonna smile any more than this. Hopefully the energy will come through, because I'm really excited about this business. So my name is Qusay Said. I'm the CEO of the business. Just a little bit about me. I am 30 years in the chemical industry, 18 of those with Dow Chemical. I left Dow in 2008. I joined private equity out in New York. I joined venture capital, did 5 startups. 3 of those I was the CEO of, their portfolio companies. 1 I was the chief commercial officer of, and we had 3 exits along the way. So I would call a serial entrepreneur. What is Ecovia? Who is Ecovia? Ecovia is a spin-out from the University of Michigan. It got spun out in 2014. It hired its first employees in January of 2015. It was inspired by the work of Jeremy Minty, who's the founder of the business. Jeremy was studying his PhD at the University for biochemical engineering, and he was searching for, I'll get into the story, he was searching for polymers that haven't reached their full potential to identify as a problem. Since the startup, the company went through the transfer of technology, the transfer of the IP from the University of Michigan, which is exclusive to us, and a very fair deal. It went through joint development agreements with one of the investors in the company, DOE, USDA, NSF. We completed all the work essentially last year and pivoted the company towards commercialization. And what happened is Jeremy hired me two years ago to be by his side as we pivot into the commercialization and scale-ups. And back in 2022, he surrendered the helm to the company in terms of the CEO role, assumed the full responsibility for CTO and manufacturing, as I'm now focusing on promoting the company both in terms of business development and fundraising. So that's the role that we both have. So the problem, I mentioned that before. I said, Jeremy is looking for bioproducts that haven't fulfilled their full potential. When he went into, this is really a long story for him, and it's his life work, even though he's a young guy. He's very passionate about identifying the reasons why bioproducts haven't lived up to their potential. And what he found, which a lot of the commercial folks probably already know, is that you can be a bioproduct, you can be biodegradable, you can meet all the different performance requirements, but if you're not competitive from a cost standpoint, you don't really have a shot. And that's a key driver for the invention that he's about to embark on, and the work that he's about to embark on. So he looked across the whole of the globe in terms of bioproducts, identified what we call gamma PGA, which is gamma polyglutamic acid, as it's right there, gamma polyglutamic acid, as the product that has significant potential that it hasn't met. Already has an application in the marketplace. It has presence in the marketplace, but $300 to $600 a kilogram. It can only play in places like pharma. It's being used today for cancer delivery as a scaffold. It can be used in humectant as a flocculant, but at those price points, the market potential settled at about $1 billion annually. And he looked further and said, okay, what would happen if we actually lowered the price point? What would happen to the potential of the market? And what you find here is that at different price points, the market size expands greatly up to when we reach the point of our market pricing to the market between $5 and $10 a kilogram, it's tenfold. And what's nice about this is because no one has access to that price position, it's a white sheet of paper in terms of intellectual property. Because no one has looked at things like hygiene as a way to address with polyglutamic acid. So he set out to do the work, and essentially the breakthrough for Ecovia with the team is low-cost production of polyglutamic acid. And how he does that is he's been able to isolate a novel bacteria, and he's been able to develop a process around it and the know-how around it to come up with the lowest cost process to develop polyglutamic acid. And how he's doing that, just some key points. Less than 24-hour fermentation. Our competitors are somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 days of fermentation. So when you're turning an acid once a day versus 5 days, that you have 5x the capacity already to start. Lean media, extracellular production. That means the bacteria spits out the polymer. That polymer is not inside the bacteria, so you don't have to go inside the bacteria and take it out. It makes for a much easier separation of biomass, much cheaper process for the downstream to pull together the polymer. High titer in yield, it's very productive. It's an order of magnitude higher than the current process. We know for a fact, the folks that we're talking today have 5 grams per liter titer. We're already nearing 60. So now you know within those 24 hours how much more you're producing. And of course, that doesn't end there. We have a polymer chemist, scientist who's taken what we're giving them in developing additional polymers, copolymers, cross-linking, making it very unique and applicable to certain applications in the marketplace that today has a synthetic base, but no alternatives. The next best alternative is also synthetic, no bioproducts. And the drop-in potential for somebody like me who can go in and say to the market, I have a similar product, I can build a facility that does this for you. And what would that do in terms of your sale, margin expansion, penetration versus the incumbents and so forth. So we have $1 billion opportunity just as a drop-in potential, but that's not really where we're focused. We want to target on super absorbents, and I'll explain why. So feedstock is flexible. We make polyglutamic acid. Unfortunately, this doesn't show. Polyglutamic acid, azure base, is now the linear form of the protein, and we cross-link it and make it into azure gel. We start from bio-based products all the way to biodegradable, the range of applications. That's just some of the samples of the range of applications. There are numerous others. The opportunity in front of us and who is talking to us right now? People in food. I mentioned it's a scaffold, it's also a protein. There are a lot of folks looking for carbohydrate replacements and alternative proteins, so very interesting for them. We don't have that expertise, but we're working with people where we provide them a product for them to develop. As a wastewater flocculant, you go to YouTube today, you'll find many videos where they show PGA as a flocculant and what it does. Again, high performing, but very low cost, especially in places where they need a good performing flocculant. They can't afford the product. In cosmetics, as a rheology modifier and as a moisturizer, there are already products out there in the market. It shows that as a humectant, it outperforms high hyaluronic acid by a great shot. But because, again, cost and availability, they haven't really gone after it. Medical, and of course, the area of focus for us primarily is hygiene today, because we've been able to break through and match the performance of the synthetic polyacrylate and match the cost. And that is a huge advantage now, because that market is billions and billions and billions. So, mentioned earlier, competition is Luban, Lumage, but all of them come from China and Japan. There are no companies making polyglutamic acid in the Western Hemisphere. Roughly $1 billion for these applications. If you just add hygiene plus hygiene, the market expands to $26 billion. And the hygiene is what? It's the built incontinence, it's diapers, it's feminine care. I'll skip this because I think I spoke to it. I'll highlight this, which is the go-market plans. The application for azure base are hair fixatives. For skincare, there are things like a humectant, either in combination with hyaluronic acid or as a replacement to it. And we have folks who are already working on this. These are the people who supply the brand owners, the Estee Lauders, the Chanels, and so forth. And then in terms of azure gel, which is the gel itself, we have also a rheology modifier play with partners who are developing the products. They take it from us because we don't have the expertise. We don't have the expertise or the presence in the marketplace. They take it from us and develop it into formulated products. We are, however, focused heavily on diapers because the super absorbents coming out of the hygiene field requires additional development to make sure that it exceeds, because it hasn't even reached its full potential, exceeds the current polyacrylate performance at lower cost. And as David mentioned, we had a customer who paid $10,000 for 1 kilogram. They took it, tested it. A month later, they came back and said, we want to buy 50 kilograms worth. And we sold it for $6,000 a kilogram. We're producing that, and we have additional customers who are doing the same thing for that high price, primarily because we're going to the market and building it with contract manufacturing. Income statement. It's a very healthy business. This is very conservative. It's really very conservative in terms of demand. 62 million in 2027 on super absorbent in the face of an $8 billion market, and we have the capability to meet requirements in terms of physical requirements and the cost requirements. The thing I want to point out to you is I want to show you cost of goods sold. If I could just point out it, expenditures. You see under expenditures, you have cost of goods sold between the year 2025 and 2026. You see there's a huge drop in cost of goods sold at doubling the business. That's the time which our facility will come into. We'll return to operations. And so we're planning to build a facility. We're going to raise that in Series A, which will go out for sometime next year. Even if we don't do it, you have a gross margin at the bottom line. Gross margin, it's 52%. You know, there's a huge improvement, 74% and 77%. That's fine. But even if you don't do your own facility, there's a pretty healthy business. The team, I mentioned about myself. Jeremy is the founder of the business. He's the PhD in biochemical engineering. Amy came to us from Ford. She was responsible for a number of different transactions in the M&A group in terms of doing the transaction and also integration. Jeff Horst is a founder of Alta Scientific. Jeff sold the business to Kemin. He is now in Kemin. He serves on our board, and he is a tremendous asset. I think he lives here in Grosse Pointe, right? Tremendous asset for us. We're constantly on the phone with Jeff looking for advice. And Rafael Castilla is the director who's responsible for the deployment and allocation of the endowment arm, the endowment allocation for University of Michigan companies. A great friend of the company, huge supporter for us. So what's the ask? The ask is $1 million in equity at 5.7 pre-money, pretty modest Midwestern valuation. Mintz has already put in $500,000. ABF has put in $250,000. I mentioned friends of the company, but I think it's Dave Grigorka. I don't know if you guys know him. He's put in 25. That's the second time he's put in. He's put in more prior, so he's coming back again. And we're seeking to complete this round by the end of June, with ABF willing to share its complete due diligence to anybody who's interested in seeing that. So Mike wants to open the books. Use of funds for us is actually filing $150,000 budget. That's pretty huge. Continue our downstream processing, and we want to build some inventory so we can have it instead of saying everybody you're on backlog, you're on backlog. We want to have some material available to continue to expand the market. Ideas on exit. I believe we need to hit a couple of milestones. Capacity level, that doesn't really mean you have to build it, but it's a capacity of production, either through contract manufacturing or building it, and stage 4 economics. So we'll have the lowest cost, and we have proven to the marketplace that we have the lowest cost, and we have the demand, and then a schedule of demand. That could come as early as 2025. So at that time, we have options. IPO, we'll explore that. I'm not particularly in favor of IPO, having worked for 18 years with a publicly traded company, but we'll have to look at it. It might be the best return.
Finish your thought, please.
Okay. Private equity, I think the interesting thing about private equity is your investment will be top co, but you have options in terms of, do I exit the hygiene business? Do I exit the humectant business? Which business do I exit, or do I exit the whole thing? Depends on the return on investment. And then the downstream partners, and then I think the most likely one is the upstream partners. More likely it's a Dow, it's an Ecovia, it's a BASF. Those are the folks who will have interest in the company and interest in our exit.
Questions for Chris? I'm very interested in your pilot production. Your ability to hit early stage milestones means that you're fermenting, extracting, purifying, and delivering at tens, hundreds, thousands compared to the lab scale. How do you get there?
So we expanded from our current lab scale, which is at 10 liters, and we have 44 reactors at 10 liters. We did our own 100-liter reactor now. And then the next phase, which we've done already and we're doing now, is with MSUDI, Michigan State University Biotech Institute in So we're at 3,000 liters today, which has given us roughly 60 kilograms.
That's the biggest reactor they
That's the biggest reactor they have.
have.
Yeah. We've been able to hit all our milestones relative to MSC launch. We're now talking to CMOs. There's one in Spain we're talking to. There's one in Eastern Europe. We're talking to a bunch of CMOs here in North America for the much ton quantity at essentially 20,000 or 50,000 liters. And that's because our Australian customer is interested in putting his demand as a way to gain exclusivity through purchasing. So he basically will say, okay, you don't agree to my purchase. How about if I buy all your available capacity?
The exclusive without the exclusive.
Exclusive without exclusive. So we're starting to have that negotiation with him because he's very interested to be first to market with this product. And we told him we're not willing to sign exclusivity. So he said, well, I'll buy everything you make.
Hygiene.
Yeah.
Other questions? Right.
So you said that you were selling in 2014, but are there any other commercial questions coming out?
No. It was completely focused on the grants it was receiving. In fact, even the pivot back in late 2021 was essentially a board decision. It had to force the issue of, okay, it's time to go out to the market because we're not going to go after any additional grants. And there are still grants available for us, but we're not pursuing them.
Yeah, so the IP, what you got now, and what is it?
The IP, primarily in terms of filing, is composition of matter IP. It's all the patents that we need to put in place for the products we develop for the different markets. So it's not on the upstream. We've kept that a trade secret and know-how just on the basis of who needs to know. But in terms of downstream, where the application comes in contact with our technology, we're developing that IP around it.
That's all
It's for humectants, it's for hygiene, it's for flocculants, it's for antibacterial things that we're doing. We're starting to talk about a number of things. We have to focus our IP and our expense related to it, but there's even IP in terms of food, there's IP in terms of drug delivery, there's all kinds of still left on the table. It's not going to get any attention from us.
What's to keep an ADM or a Cargill from giving you that punch with off-the-shelf PGA?
Well, we've talked to both of them. There will be an exit partner, more than likely. We have an update call every quarter. They're not doing it. Cargill has done a bio-based of acrylic acid. The problem with bio-based acrylic acid is it solves the bio-based part, which is the supply chain, but it doesn't solve the biodegradable piece because a bio-based acrylic acid, you still create polyacrylic acid, which is not biodegradable. So they haven't really figured out just yet. And all the brand owners at the top end, like the P&Gs of the world and Kimberly-Clark's, they're focused on quarterly earnings and cost management. They dabble in this thing. But we have a quarterly call with them. They've evaluated our technology. They've called us and said, this is best in class. Those are their words, not mine. But they're not buying it, right?
Your slides are amazing.
Oh, they want to get done.
Well, let me hog the floor. Other questions for Chris? You know I will.
Look.
Question on the pilot itself, what all arguments for success there?
It's really scaling up from lab performance to the pilot or the bigger size without loss in productivity. most bioproducts, when you say I have 40 titer and they go to bigger production, they have lower titer. We actually went, we did the reverse.
When you went from 10 to 100?
Yeah, because we had better distribution of oxygen and other things. So, yeah. So we actually went up. There are a number of things that could go wrong when you scale up. So when you go to 3,000 liters, you've more or less de-risked the whole thing. And that's where we are today. That's why the customer is no longer thinking, you know, what if they can't make it? Because he knows we're going to make it. It's now a question of where are they going to make it, and then how soon can they serve it?
You mentioned CMOs in Spain and elsewhere. Where are there reactors, fermenters, brewers that need this process? They need your business.
The only thing that I can think about, or Jeremy and I have been exploring, is xanthan gum production. The problem with xanthan gum production, the reason why we're going after that is because it's high viscosity fermentation. This is a high viscosity fermentation. Yeah. But xanthan gum production has been decimated because of the dumping from China. So not too many xanthan gum assets are open or haven't converted. There are a couple that are open that we're looking at. We're now negotiating with folks who are actually putting assets on the ground. We're fairly comfortable with where we're headed. The same, if you're in the biospace, you'll know every name I will mention. We're talking to them about preserving some of the capacity.
Building a plant, as you plan out in 3-4 years here, you're betting all of your early stage capital that a later stage investor will double, triple, 10 people down in order to make that kind of investment. What's the contingency plan for your early stage investors? For, you know, ADF is always going to be friendly.
Yeah.
But for your 225, they're betting on an A and then a B based on that plan that you showed of
Right.
getting to the $26 billion market.
Right. So we don't really intend to build a facility out of equity. We intend to finance that based on offtake agreements that we will take with those customers. So we have pretty interesting commitments that are on the table right now between the Australia company and the Japanese company. Those offtake agreements
That was the key.
are bankable.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to give you 10 minutes back.
Okay, thank you.
You say Saeed, Ecovia. See, preparedness is not slides, it's content.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to vamp for a minute while you plug that into James's laptop. So I've seen 3 different versions of James's presentation. It just keeps getting better. The most recent was last month, where James actually brought one of his electric drive modules on a steel cart. And boy, how to make a room full of engineers excited is give them some heavy duty hardware to look at. It was shining. We will see pictures of that today. We will not see the original. But James, you said something about having one of these on Lake St. Clair.
Yeah.
So we'd be very interested to hear more about that.
Yeah.
And without further ado, James Breyer, Hercules Marine.
So I'm James Breyer. I'm the founder and CEO of Hercules Marine, a division of Hercules Electric Mobility. Where we really came up with this idea is to electrify the marine space is because it can create the greatest impact to the environment while having the infrastructure to do it right today. So we hear a lot about the electric vehicle revolution that's going on, and I was part of the very early days of that. This was always my dream, is to electrify the marine space because it is the most practical application of electrification right now on the planet. And so we're going to share a little bit about what we've accomplished and where we're headed. This is an overview of the product. This is our marketing material that we showed customers at the Miami Boat Show. One of the key elements is you'll notice we have pontoon boats, wreck drive, runabouts, cruisers all covered. We'll also show an outboard in our product portfolio. But a couple of the key areas are we have a software-defined powertrain, a truly software-defined powertrain that can scale from 20 horsepower all the way up to 350 horsepower with turbo modes that gas engines just can't have. One of the key elements that we build around is our battery pack design. So we're using our go-to-market strategy, LFP battery chemistry, but the dimensions of that battery pack that we designed at Hercules can fit between the stringers of a traditional monohull boat, or they can be stacked together and fit in the pontoon of a pontoon boat. And so any kind of boat, a sailboat, a catamaran, a power boat, a pontoon boat, a day cruiser, we can power any of them, as well as work boats. And so we can stack up to 4 of these batteries together and get up to 160 kilowatt hours of energy per motor and 350 horsepower of continuous operating power. There aren't any competitors out there today that are offering that level of power, especially not scalable by software. And we did that strategically. So part of my upbringing in engineering was Ford Research and General Motors, as well as some time at FCA. In those times at those 3 major automakers, using common parts has always been the mythos of the auto industry. Shared parts, commonization, and compatibility. Software was going to be the answer. Today, there isn't a single automaker that has a software-defined powertrain, but yet we can do a software-defined powertrain in a boat in a way that is very unique. Because of the way the drives operate, we can couple 1 motor or 2 motors into a vessel, 3 motors, 4 motors, as many as will physically fit, and then the associated battery packs, which give us scalable power. But beyond that, we can also scale by software alone, like I said, from 220 horsepower all the way up to 350 horsepower, all on the same core motor technology. And that gives us an economy of scale, so lower cost of goods than our competitors. A little bit about who we are. As I mentioned, I'm James Breyer. I spent some time in the big 3, also at Bosch and Magna and some other big tier 1s locally. But my co-founder, Julie, who's sitting in the back hiding, she's gonna wave. Her background is as a business unit leader at Eaton and Gentherm. Prior to that, she spent time at Visteon, Ford, and General Motors. Our team, that we have one of the most fantastic teams in the Motor City, which is fighting words for most other teams out there. But essentially, we have over 200 years of automotive and electrification integration experience. Our chief engineer from Chrysler has over 34 years of integration experience. Our assistant chief from General Motors was a platform advanced chem. Our designer has 30 years in the industry, both at Ford Motor Company and in defense contracts. And so they also are hobbyists in race cars, in boats, in water skiing, and other activities that are outdoors. So boating is really part and parcel of who they are, as well as that great automotive experience that allows them to lead us down the pathway to commercialization, how to scale, how to launch without quality defects, and more importantly, when we encompass a problem, how to resolve it using the best techniques of the industry that we're also familiar with. What we are actually looking to raise, we have an open convertible note right now. It's a $15 million cap on that note. Cityside, who are also known as the Birmingham Angels, have issued us a term sheet actually this afternoon as an update to this. And so they will be investing $500,000 on these terms. It's like I said, a $15 million cap, 30% discount on the next preferred round, and it's a $2.5 million note. We've got another interested party representing about $1 million. That's soft circle that he's in due diligence. Cityside is willing to and happy to share their due diligence, but also create an SPV or have you have your own SPV. And so it can be independent or conjoined, but the use two key points that are also part, and I think a very strong advantage is Dean Harlow, who is a member of Cityside Angels, will also become a board member. His background, and I don't have a profile for him, or I'd share it because it's very new. So we try to put in the latest information. But he was number 2 or 3 at Delphi during their spinoff years, and then more recently was CEO at Ricardo. And so he's been around this industry for a long time, gives us a lot of credibility, but also a lot of guidance. And so we're really happy to see him come on the board with Julie and I. The use of funds, it's for staff expansion and growth, but most importantly, it's for acquiring inventory so we can deliver against our first purchase order. And we have a purchase order with for this design, sorry, this is my technical design, and we'll touch on those points. But we have a purchase order for 1,500 units with a customer that we'll go over the details of, and we're looking to execute against that purchase order. And we just were verbally told of being awarded a new business this morning, so it's been a great day all around. And so we'll be doing another 45-foot cruiser with our system. It'll have 2 of our systems in it. So here's an example of our system. So for a cruiser, as an example, it would be this crate motor package. These are fluid tanks that also have heat exchangers embedded in them, so we don't have to take seawater in for our core electronics cooling or motor cooling, and that protects it against electrolysis issues in the field. And then we also have for our pontoon customers this box-in-a-box design, which allows us to take our IP67, which is waterproof and dustproof components, house them in another waterproof container, put those into the pontoon itself, and then install that with the battery under the deck of the pontoon boat. And that opens up design freedom for the boat maker. And so they're very excited by this because they can extend the deck now rearward further than they have ever done it before, open up new seating options for their customers, and it increases their safety. So now if you can imagine that extended deck over your powertrain, when you jump off, there's no object down there to hit or strike as a swimmer. And so they're really excited by these opportunities. Plus, there's no cutout for this giant obelisk of an outboard motor. Here, and speaking of outboard motors, we also in our design and development plan have an outboard motor that shares all the same components and the same software for the future. So in 2024, we intend to introduce this product. It also goes to the 350 horsepower. But as you can see, the relative scale to a 250 horsepower Mercury is significantly smaller. That allows us to have this outboard, which installs external to the hull. The batteries and inverter will be inside the hull, below the floor, where it doesn't take up any occupant space. And so this is a very exciting development for the boat makers as well, because now they can do unique things with a bolt-on package, and it will open up the markets to work boats and other type of vessels like bass boats and things where they wouldn't have the room for all the equipment to be inside the hull. In addition to that, we have unique features, including a built-in elevator feature with the advent of new boats that use hydrofoils, which lift the hull out of the water. Our bracketry, which we're actually not showing because we don't want anyone to copy us today, allows that motor to go up and down. And so if you have a hydrofoil, we can actually lower the motor and keep it in the proper location in the water column. For go-fast boats, so those high-performance boats that make all that noise out there that we see all the time, we can actually raise our motor to the top of the water column, and as it injects air into the prop wash, it actually quickens the speed of the prop and allows the boat to go faster. And so we can actually take advantage of that by elevating that motor into the proper position for a go-fast boat. So we're not restricted to go slow, putt around the lake, although that's what most boat owners want to do. This is that display that was introduced. We showed over at the Miami Boat Show, but also at Centropolis, which is a great supporter of ours. They are actually an investor as well. But we also had our electric boat down in Miami, and we were able to get boat maker partners from around the world on the boat so they could experience the quiet power that we're offering. Honda was on the boat from Japan, a number of boat makers from Europe, as well as the United States, as well as some great media coverage. And so we have some links here, and hope when you get the deck material, you will check that out because it was very exciting. We did about a half-day expose with Miami Herald and some co-marketing reporters that they have. Some of the benefits: it's quiet, it's powerful, it's compact. That's what the boat makers care about. And then we have no maintenance, and that's what the owners care about. So increase the owner experience and increase the boat makers' experience, and then open up these new markets, as well as all the pollutants and gasoline that we avoid spilling in the water. I mentioned the infrastructure. Marinas have power. Boat homeowners with boats have power next to their docks. Generally speaking, at least a sprinkler pump. And so you can connect to either automotive chargers if you're on a trailer or your shore power. Our competitors do not have anything as close to what we have. They don't have this power, and we are priced competitive with gas engines today. Our key pillars, I'm not going to go through all the detail, but really it's about this customer pipeline. We have a purchase order that's valued at $60 million with Coach. It's 1,500 units. It's a blanket PO. It's good for over 3 years, and we will execute against this. I also mentioned that other customer from the UK. A lot of European and LATAM customers are coming to us looking for a solution that meets their ESG goals and their price points. We have a very value-centric proposition in the marketplace because we're going to economy of scale through using those common components. Our competitors are all doing bespoke design, and we know this because they told us this. We've met with all of them on different partnership opportunities, and the big boys, the Mercuries, the Hondas, the Yamahas, etc., they don't even have their electrification plans yet. Mercury's key achievement for the year was the 7.5 Aviator motor. It's 9 horsepower. It's the best they can do. We're going at 350 horsepower out of the gate and scale across their product line because we know that gives us an attraction to the customer and a better experience. The #1 boat motor today sold is the 250 horsepower outboard. On pontoon boats, on roundabouts, on cruisers, that's the #1 outboard sold today. And that's the core market we're going after. Skip some of this. Our TAM is $13 billion. The SAM is $1 billion by 2026. That's the projection of the National Marine Manufacturers Association for electric outboards. Our SOM, which is kind of the strategic obtainable market that we're going after, we see it at about $350 million right within our grasp. And our financials show that. So jumping ahead to some of the financials, sorry for the small fonts, but as you can see in 2024, we can achieve $120 million in revenue by maintaining an operating cadence of about 2,000 units. We are using contract manufacturers that have this capability. In Detroit, finding contract manufacturer knows how to do volume production, and automotive people that understand what volume and scale means and how to go from hand build to production quality with that high resolution of quality is something that our team knows well, and we have the partners in this town to do that. Michigan is the #3 boating state in the country, in the #1 boating country in the world, and we are the 40th manufacturer of marine goods, and we need to reverse that trend and do it locally. And so most boat making materials are built or sourced into Florida. Florida can't hold a candle to what we can do in production. And so that's really where our emphasis is. We have great great capital partners. One of our key achievements was we had a core strategic relationship with Nissan Motors to develop this core architecture. It was non-dilutive funding to the tune of $2.8 million. And so that's been a huge help boost in our arm. We also have some great angel investors and friends and family that have come in, as well as Lawrence Tech and Cityside. And so we would love to have you guys join us on our journey to create the most powerful marine electric propulsion system on the planet at scale, and scale from day one. Some of our key accolades and some of our strategic partners, from our controllers, our battery partners, Coach Pontoons, SEI, the outdrive partner, who has the freedom to operate for the outdrive, where our price is lower than Mercury's cost to produce. So we have strategic advantage at every single point in our operation against the big players. We just need now to finance this, grow the team, and start delivering to the contracts. And that's my presentation today. So time for questions.
Ed, what's on your mind?
How would this compare to, you've got a 35, 40-foot boat with a couple of 350, 400 horsepower Yanmars in it? How would it compare weight, price, performance, and two-part question? What's the exit strip? What's the exit strategy?
Well, I will address exit first, and then I'll tell you all about the technical power.
Okay, that's it.
So exit strategy is M&A, IPO secondary to that, and the other is growth with dividends, because we could be that player. But I believe when we hit 300 million in revenue, we're going to have a line of 6 engine makers that are looking to buy us, quite frankly, or a Brunswick boat company or some conglomerated boat company, either MarineMax or
Your
Brunswick.
IP is that defensible. All
Correct.
or Yanmar, or one of the Cummings, one of the gigantic guys would need to buy you so they don't get sued by you.
So for specific markets, yes. Electrification in boating started in 1901.
Right.
So electric motor, no. But the particular scalable architecture that we have is patent pending. And it is patent pending from an architectural standpoint, as well as specific applications for multi-hull vessels. So the pontoon boat market, which is the #1 market in the United States, is protected by Hercules patent. So yes, the short answer is yes. On the technology side, you get a Yanmar 300 horsepower engine. It would be equivalent torque to what we have, roughly the same torque, at a similar RPM.
Your 350 horsepower is about 300.
Your 300 is about 300, and so we can produce 300 newton meters of torque, or 300 foot-pounds of torque, rather. We also would have a similar weight as the Yanmar engine. When you calculate our battery plus our motor, it equals the fuel tank plus the engine of a Yanmar engine, plus or minus 10%. Generally, with a diesel, we'll be minus 10%. If we are a gas engine, we'd be roughly plus 10%. It depends on how big the fuel tank is, and some other factors as well. So if we're talking about a 45-footer that's running 500 gallons of fuel, we'll be lighter. But we'll put more battery in to address the range. Over time, we'll have more energy density in those same batteries. And so for the same weight, we can go further.
I was going to ask you actually right where you were going, which was what is the range, or how long can you run, and then how long does it take to charge?
So we generally say 6 hours to charge, up to overnight, depending on the plug you choose. But most people are going to put it into standard shore power or a 220. And so it's 6 to 8 hours. 8 hours if you're truly empty. Most people aren't going to be that because they're going to head to port earlier. But also we have, from a battery range infrastructure standpoint, our range with 80 kilowatt hours of energy in a pontoon boat, it'll go 4 days of 6 hours of use on those 4 days and about 50 miles. And so depending on how you use it, how much tubing you do versus how much cruising you do, the answer varies. But we generally tell people it's between 1 hour and 12 hours of total use time on a charge. And then you can fast charge the boat if you pull into a marina that has a fast charger, or we will limit your power to get you home if you're running out.
You do.
Was there another question over here? I thought I was.
What's the model gross margin right now?
So the gross margin right now, as modeled, is 35%. We show in our model it goes up to 42%, but we don't. That's just a future forecast of a price of goods, and with inflation, we think it'll maintain about 35%.
Who are your 2 biggest competitors right now, and do you know where they are in their funding cycle?
I do. So our 2 biggest competitors are Mercury Marine, so gas engines, and they are a $5 billion company. So I'll ignore them for you. Pure Water Sport is one, and Vision Marine is another. Vision Marine is currently raising $1.8 million to keep the doors open. They've been around since 2012, and their valuation in the public market is about $40 million. Pure is a different story. They're a 50 horsepower small outboard, but they want to be a boat maker. And so General Motors has invested $150 million in kind and cash into Pure, and they're valued at about $350 million. We have talked to all these potential EV companies as well as the big ones. From a Brunswick Mercury standpoint, we're 3 years ahead of them. And we know that because they told us that. And we've met them for about 4 or 5 months because they keep circling around like flies when they smell something good, right? And then the other, with Pure and others, they don't have a product offering in their roadmap for the next 5 years in this kind of power range. They're looking to, like I said, sell boats that are matched to their powertrain. Vision has a similar story. They're now trying to sell boats. So they came out with motors. Now they're trying to sell boats.
because they had to change it or a pivot of their own.
Frank was really strong financials. I didn't see him using funds. Sales, and marketing. I mean, how are you going to say that it sells itself? No. You're talking to so many people. How do you prioritize? How do you?
So we actually have a model that we use to prioritize customers. And so we take a value model against them. So what does their projected volume look like? What's their projected price point? We multiply those together. And then we actually analyze against the others within the space, who's going to have a bigger payout for us. And so looking at where there's a good customer or a strategic relationship that has a value, we look at that very strongly. When we looked at Coach as a boat type, pontoon boats, it's the biggest segment. We want players in that segment. So we focused on that as a development standpoint. And that would represent up to, let's say, 50,000 units of potential right in our home area, Ohio, Indiana, just local manufacturing capability. When we take the whole of the United States, it's about 180,000 per year. With other boat types, this customer in the UK, they're going to produce about 100 boats a year. It's a good $5 million a year kind of margin or revenue business. And, you know, it opens up a new market for us. And so we looked at that as being another hull type with another appeal point for other boat makers. And so we want to be very targeted around what customers we take as partners as a first point. But then going back to the marketing question, we go to boat shows, we attend the trade shows, we're marketing in online and virtually, and really focus at the boat maker market. And so really getting in front of the different clients and partners of those clients to show what we have. And as more adoption, more interest happens, and these trade shows, people are coming to see us. When we were in Miami, we had maybe 200 potential partners come through our booth. And so Mercury was probably the largest population within the subset, but we've been able to make those connections mostly through the trade show around. So that's our primary. So I also have a head of sales and marketing. And so, no, it's not solely me. But the CEO is the head chair to close the sales. They want to see the leaders out there. So we do that.
It's very, very cool. Who's your ideal customer? And if it's, you know, boat manufacturing, managing their boat to house your.
So very minimal change is required because of the design choices we made. And we did it very strategically. That battery shape, like I mentioned, fits between the stringers of most boats, which are 24 inches on center. Our battery is 22.5 inches wide, and so it fits between. And then likewise, pontoon boats and catamarans are similarly about 25 inches in diameter, so 25 inches width, and we can drop those in and hit the corners, if you will, the tangents, and fit the battery packs within the two. And that strategically is placement so they don't have to tear it apart.
Very well thought out.
There is a huge aftermarket potential, both from an industrial standpoint, but also in upfitters. In the boat market, they call it repowering. There are currently 12 million boats out in the United States today that are up for an annual upfit. And we can take that market. The reason we targeted the boat makers to start, though, is we want design-in benefits. When we get the design-in benefit, for every boat maker we sell into, we get 75 average dealers that come with that. And so now our upfit market, when we open that up, that pipeline, we already have relationships with 75 dealers. And then multiply that out by 4 or 5 boat makers, now we've got hundreds of dealers that already know our product. So there are there's no exclusivity on the terms, and we have no minimum take rate because of that. This is a partnership type deal. It is our first contract, so we were very friendly terms, but they're excited to grow this business into electrification. They want to be seen as the Tesla of pontoon boats. And so we're really targeting to help them be that, and we will be the powertrain that enables that. So if I have 25 Teslas of different boat classes, all powered by Hercules, I will give them all the ego they need and boost, and we'll just sell a lot of stuff.
A question from some thoughtless that I would like to sharpen the pencil on. You're raising 2.5 in order to fulfill a $60 million 3-year contract. Take us to those first 100 units. How are you going to keep the promise?
So the first 100 units,
Who do you want to pick?
it's a mix of hand build and then contract manufacturing partners that we've established.
Is that what you're making?
You are starting that trend. So the first 30 units basically is the inventory that we're looking at here. And so we can deliver unit 1. We have their first boat in our house today, ready to be upfit, and we've acquired most of the parts and we're acquiring more. The second boat through, let's say, boat 30, this is what those components are for, plus the one other customer, because they're going to get one too. But that's really what the inventory is for, is to get those first 30 out, so then revenue starts to take over and the margin starts to help. And so we can grow from that. We are looking at
Does the PO become evergreen after 30?
It could be after 50. They've already got about 50 pre-orders in hand. And so they want us to minimum of 50. But no, they want to become a 1,500 unit per year eventually. That's their target. Yep, they've taken 50 orders just on our press release. So people are excited for this technology because it's quiet. So if you can hear this blower, my system is quieter than this. And so when you're doing 25, 30 miles an hour, that's the noise you hear, but it's from the wind.
Actually, that's it. Too. Some people actually like the noise up there.
Some people do.
They do. They like.
Some people do.
Yes.
And so I'll tell a little side tale. So we were on Grand Rivers Bay with our boat, showing some state reps, and a boat went by 2 miles away at high speed and high noise. They drowned out our conversation while we were underway. We could have this conversation just like this, turning around from stem to stern. You can have a casual conversation at a reasonable speed, but if a loud boat goes by you, you pause for them and you go, really? Give me a break. And then you turn your stereo up a little louder and enjoy your time again on the water. But from a general operating standpoint, it's a fantastic technology, and a lot of the customers are so enthusiastic about it because they're driving a Tesla to the marina and then they get in 25-year-old technology boats.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you. That was an important point.
Yes.
This is not your last race. You can go back to it.
No, we will have another race. Or debt. Could be debt.
Casey, I can't tell if you have a question, Brian, please. Go ahead. Thank you, Julie.
My question is on the regulatory environment.
Yes.
So, possible failings. First, we qualify for that community tax credit. That's specified it's on the road. Two, is there any opportunity for reduction in those as a resource board requires votes to
On the commercial vessel side, there are incentives. On the recreational boat side, there are no state or federal incentives today. They got left out of the last package. But every state that has boating as a significant industry has a legislation on the board right now where they're proposing. Minnesota's closest to the money on that. Wisconsin is actually second, as anti-EV as they are. But electrification on the water is a different animal. It's about quiet, it's about preserving nature, and it's about cleaning the water. And keeping clean water is a very important benefit for even those who don't believe in the electrification as a transport. And so there are initiatives to do that. On the commercial side and governmental side, there are a lot of incentives around ports and clean water. So those would be available for commercial projects.
Going back to the boat question, you mentioned modular and software defined.
Yes.
So is that internal software you guys developed, or is that something that you're buying as part of the
So I architected the software. So my background's in controls and software development for research and other places. And so we created this architecture internally, and then we use a third-party software developing firm where we contract the labor out.
1 second, Craig. James, you're going to stick around.
Yeah. I can do this all night.
Very clearly, and so can we. I promise that we adjourn by 7, and I try to keep this promise.
Software, is it just software built, the hardware itself? The two pieces of hardware are more software.
So we have some knobs in the hardware. So the gear ratio of an outdrive may change, which requires us to maybe modify the set points of the software, but the software is identical. And so the output sweep and the torque control is all the same. We're using one common motor, one common inverter in order to achieve that. And so we lose some inefficiency at very low output power, but our sweet spot between 100 and 300 is really where we operate. So that's where our sweet spot of efficiency is.
James Breyer, Hercules Marine. As you might well imagine, we have a lot of updates. We have been trying to get Jake Coppinger in here for 3 months. He's always busy. That's a good sign if you're an entrepreneur, that you're too busy to talk to investors. Anyway, I twisted his arm and he's phoning it in today. So would you please welcome virtual Jake?
Everybody, my name is Jake Coppinger, and I'm the CEO of FreightRoll. I want to thank David for giving me the opportunity to update you all on our progress. Reminder of what we do. So in 2023, despite significant advancements in technology and broad adoption across the space, when a truck driver arrives at a facility, they're still exchanging paperwork and performing a bunch of manual tasks throughout the trip from check-in to check-out. FreightRoll is a yard orchestration platform, which is kind of like an air traffic controller for this process. Our aim is to automate this process from beginning to end. By doing this, we save the customers a significant amount of money, redundant labor, more trucks through the yard, reducing manual processes and paper. Maybe most impactful, however, is the opportunity to save time and money for drivers. This translates into savings for everybody and a positive network effect for our business. We're solving problems that even the largest companies in the world still have, which has allowed us to develop relationships and thought leadership with companies like Nestle Waters, Cognizant, IBM, Kyndryl, Nestle, Walmart, Kroger, Target, Costco, Lineage Logistics, SPS Commerce, General Motors, and many more. Given this backdrop, I wanted to provide you with an update. Last year, we launched our first customer, Camera Logistics. We're deployed at one facility where they were struggling with manual processes related to paper documentation, as well as the driver's experience in the yard. They have additional facilities that are struggling with the same issues, as well as issues related to shipments showing up damaged, which requires photo evidence for the loading process. We're planning to expansion to these facilities in the coming months. They're also an excellent reference customer. We view Camera as a launchpad for larger customers. Since we launched with them, we've been approached by Cognizant, which is one of the world's largest IT vendors. They have a customer called Deckers, who makes Uggs and other athletic apparel. Deckers is struggling with similar manual issues, but with a compounding factor. They've now gotten paid for entire truckloads of goods delivered to Amazon because of a recent rule that requires a digital form of shipment documentation to be sent to them. And Deckers has been unable to provide that documentation at times due to having lost the original paperwork. Deckers approached Cognizant, who then approached us to see if we could solve this problem through our digital bill of lading module. We're in the midst of an RFP. We're hoping to be executing in partnership with Cognizant soon. Cognizant is currently also expediting us through the procurement process because they see a similar opportunity with several of their other thousands of customers, especially with this new requirement from Amazon and other retailers potentially following as well. The most important thing going on with the company note is we recently executed on a proof of concept with Blue Triton, which is the former Nestle Waters. This is one of the largest shippers in the world. And during the proof of concept, we were able to cut their truck turnaround times, that's check in to check out, by upwards of 50% per ship, but also eliminating manual processes, and paper handling. This offers significant yard throughput and labor efficiency benefits, and is also environmentally friendly. We're currently working through the business case, and the plan is to deploy it at our first facility by August. This is a solid six-figure ARR opportunity. They've also shared their next year of challenges related to the yard, which will allow us to expand our relationship with them, yielding a seven-figure overall opportunity. This is also similar to what they did with SAP to create an industry-leading manufacturing execution software for consumer packaged goods. Lastly, this offers us a significant opportunity to get in front of their roughly 1,000 carriers and tens of thousands of drivers each year that go through their facilities. We have several other pipeline opportunities, including Nestle, Lineage Logistics, Crowley Logistics, NFI, and others. Our current pipeline is about $19 million in ARR. We recently closed an investment from Michigan Rise and have a $100,000 commitment from Ann Arbor Spark Fund. We're currently closing out an additional $350K, which will set us up to launch our seed round later this year in conjunction with finalizing the deals we discussed today. In terms of this round, we're sent by Venture 53, which is one of the top new supply chain VCs in the US, led by industry executives from Estes and Coca-Cola, with LPs from some of the top freight tech companies and other freight companies. Thanks for tuning into our update. Apologies for not being able to be there, but looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Jake's our FreightRoll is a portfolio company. They've been in several Point Angels, and they're getting ready for a re-up. I think it's notable that we're going to get diligence paperwork from Venture 53, and we will be getting that from City's side on if there is sufficient interest in the Hercules deal. But when it comes to the integration pathway with Cognizant and Kyndryl, that's how little software companies break out. Otherwise, they get stuck in low market sales. One of our, yes, Ed.
I was going to say, I got everyone in.
You're one of the FreightRoll investors.
In FreightRoll, and Venture 53 investments in
It's most of that, right?
Yeah, and Venture 53 deals out of Atlanta, some of the other things started. They got investments in 13 different little kind of companies working in the same space, trucking logistics, but we started hoping that eventually we could kick these guys in the levels of the world up. So it doesn't really make sense to do a company.
When we have updates and you've got the actual investment film, and the CEO can't show up, I mean, you should do this.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Next, I'm super pleased that Hyuho Kim has joined us from Ann Arbor. Hyuho is the co-founder and CEO of CubeWorks, which is a really exciting, I want to call it a pharma play or a logistics play.
It's really an IoT
play.
Yep.
All right, you want to use this? Here you go. Oh. And again, Dr. Kim, super busy guy, growing his company. We're really grateful to have you here telling us what you're doing with our money.
Thank you. Let me just make sure I'm connected here.
There you go. Such a clean desktop. Animation or movies or anything?
I think I should be okay. Yeah, so thank you for having me here, David, and very nice to be here. My name is Hyuho Kim. I'm the CEO of CubeWorks. I remember pretty much about around the same time last year was when I was pitching to you guys, and that was when we were finishing up our second seed round financing, which ended up being oversubscribed. I see some familiar faces, but that was over Zoom, so it's a pleasure to be here and get to meet all of you. So I'll go over some of the really exciting updates and progress that we've made since then. So with the additional capital from the second seed round financing, which ended up being $2.4 million, we were able to successfully launch our first product in this market called the CubeWorks XT1. So this is the only device in the market that can do electronic measurement and logging of temperature, and is small enough to tag individual items. And that could be, vaccine vials or syringes of biologics. So there's a lot of excitement around customers that are seeing our device. Basically they haven't seen anything like this. It's got such a unique form factor. Because of our low power technology, we can achieve 3 years of battery life. And we also have a small display, and I'd be happy to show you the product, which is basically smaller than a penny. So along with the XT1, we also launched our cloud-based platform called the XT Cloud. So that's basically where the data from the XT1 is uploaded, and then our customers are visualizing their temperature compliance data on the XT Cloud. So this is actually our first time launching a software platform as well, so that has been also a very exciting journey. So now, and I'll talk more about the commercial traction on the later slides. And right now, our technical team is working on 2 new exciting kind of variants of this product. One is a variant of the XT1 NFC that can cover dry ice temperatures. So right now, our first product can only go down to -30 degrees. There has been a lot of requests from customers to be able to cover the -80 to -50 degrees for the new mRNA vaccines, as well as all these cell gene therapies. So we're making a version for that. And then the next big thing is also introducing a version that can do real-time updates. So where the data gets uploaded automatically, and it can do both temperature and location tracking. We've also been able to grow our team. So now we have 8 full-time employees. The total headcount, including some part-timers and contractors, we're up to 12. We've added some key hires in the software development side, as well as business development. And we actually need to grow our commercial team even further. And actually everyone on this slide has equity stake in the company. And David, who's our chief scientist, as well as Wendell, as part of the advisory board, they both came in as individual investors in the last round. We've also added Mr. Hurton as our advisory board member, and he was the former CEO of a company called Sensitech. That's a company that makes these USB data loggers, and that's the industry standard right now in the biopharma cold chain. So here's our current company roadmap, and I'll try to make it kind of brief. So right now we're in phase 1, having launched the XT1 NFC product as well as XT Cloud. And our current production capacity is about 2,000 units per month. Towards the end of this year, we would like to ramp that up to about 50,000 per month, based on the progress that we've been making with customers. We have a number of pilots that could turn into easily tens or even hundreds of thousands of units. So we want to be ready for that. So we're starting to also fundraise our next round. And that's also when we will be launching the XT1 RT, which supports the real-time updates, as well as adding some AI capabilities to XT Cloud to give more insights to our customers. And then phase 3 is basically about 2 years from now. That's when we are fully scaled up in our production, entering high volume manufacturing. That's when our sensor cost would drop to about $1 or $2 for the NFC version. That's the version that we're currently selling. And then for the real-time version, our target cost is about $7 to $8. And having a sub $10 tag that can do real-time location and temperature tracking can be really revolutionary for a lot of different verticals, not just biopharma cold chain. So this is the commercial traction that we've had so far. Being, the pharma industry being our target customer, things have taken a little longer than initially anticipated. But we're very glad to have 5 ongoing pilots with large pharma companies. Overall, including partners as well as food manufacturers, we have over 10 ongoing pilots, 4 signed LOIs with combined expected sales volume of over 1 million sensors by next year. So overall, we're very excited about the progress and looking forward to continuing the growth. And I'd be happy to chat with all of you.
Can you stick around?
Afterwards. Yeah, I can be here for.
All right. So I've broken my promise already. It's 7 o'clock, and I've got 4 more updates to give.
Okay.
So I beg your indulgence. Do we want to adjourn, or do we want to hear more updates? Oh, more updates, of course. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
I will do the 2x. How you can watch videos and they're all speeded up. So we had a great time at Renaissance Ventures on demo day a week and a half ago. I talked to 7 startups that I'd never heard of before, and we're going to get a couple of them in here. Who else from this room was in on demo and saw different startups? Please feed them into our hopper. I want to reinforce the invitation to the Midwest Growth Capital Symposium, which is May 23rd and 24th. This is where all the cool kids are, where a lot of investors talk with other investors about startups. Oh, and there's also startup pitches, but it's mostly investors talking with other investors. I've received an email this afternoon from the organizers saying that my paid admission grants me guest admission. So if that's your cup of tea, come and see me, and we'll I don't know if that offer is still good, but I got one. Point at the Growth Capital, it's in Ann Arbor, it's at the Ross School, is that this is an anchorage of the investor ecosystem in Michigan. It kind of grew up around this conference, which has been going for 41 years.
David, I might add on that one.
Go, Luke.
They emailed me a couple times. Every ticket is getting that +1.
So you got a +1 also?
I got a +1, but I do encourage you to bring folks that might not already be in the digital community. Come over, see these startups, understand the pitches, understand the excitement around it.
23rd and 24th.
23rd, 24th.
May.
It's
Week after next.
a week and a half.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a friend of mine. He's in a corporate environment. Kind of sounds some vote. Hey, come on over.
He's one of us. Yeah.
That's where I'm hoping to help him shake a little bit loose. So
All right.
I encourage you to.
This is where I kind of got the bug. The founder of Growth Capital Symposium was my mentor, and I started going because it seemed to be the thing to do. And look at us now. Now we're actually doing it. I met Kurt there. Blue Conduit. Super excited about Blue Conduit. Another portfolio company with Pointe Angels investing last year in a company that is basically an AI company that processes ground penetrating radar sensor data in order to determine what the pipe is made out of. Is it copper? Is it iron? Is it lead? And for those lead pipes, dig those up and replace them with the $15 billion that the infrastructure bill has set aside just for lead pipes. Problem was that they were founded by 2 professors, neither of whom wanted to do anything but profess. So they've been, this issue, don't you? Yeah, you can tell us stories. They recently picked up the former CEO of Deepfield, another AI analytics company, who also was with Census, which is in security. That's Lauren Groh. I've got a meeting with Lauren next week. There couldn't be a better fit for this conspicuously empty chair at Blue Conduit. They've got new investment from the Accelerate Blue Fund that you keep hearing about a lot tonight. ABF, Accelerate Blue Fund, is how University of Michigan alumni turned their philanthrocapitalism into startup equity. So they laundered that money through the Innovation Partnerships Accelerate Blue Fund, and it turns into commercializing ventures in Michigan. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Lauren has 700 left in his safe round for new and existing investors to help them reach the milestone that they've set for 24, which hopefully I'll get Lauren in here next month to tell you about. Passive Bolt, Kabir Moga came and gave us an update a couple of months ago in person, but I got an email from him yesterday. He's had his second deployment of his KeyShare platform. This is the intelligent, anonymous locking and unlocking cloud. Completely pivoted the company from hardware to cloud software. And I wish more of our entrepreneurs did this. He's taking us up on our branding statement, on our positioning. He wants a little of that Point Angels angel at it down. So roll your little mental Rolodex and figure out who owns hotels. That's who Kabir wants to meet. Plus, Bioenergy was a presenter last summer, and they signed 2 commercial customers in Latin America. One of them is in pineapple, and the problem with pineapple is there's a lot of greens and one little fruit. And what are you going to do with all these greens? Well, you're going to put them in one of these reactors and turn it into biochar, which keeps that carbon out of the atmosphere and generates energy. So COAS Bioenergy producing rural electrification from plant mass. An industry that produces a great deal more plant mass than pineapple is coffee. Coffee, what we drink, is the pit of a cherry of a bush. And all of that biomass that isn't the pit has to get cleared for the coffee to come back and grow another cherry next year. They're taking all of those cherries and all of the greens and putting it in a much larger version of this reactor in order to generate energy in order to distill vodka. I couldn't imagine a better use of that energy. Let's say with COAS is raising a $600K safe in order to unlock the investment from these partners. So they've issued a challenge, and the challenge flows back to us. None of our updates would be complete without Tafola, without Tenera Grains, who is just dogged about keeping us updated on their progress. The Grains and Gains newsletter signals a pivot that kind of goes back to the roots of this 7th generation Michigan farm family that is growing ancient grains on what used to be winter wheat and corn. Their facility in Addison is now certified organic, and they keep selling out of their products. That's a nice problem to have, but we would like them to scale up so we don't sell out. This is our like group hub slide. So year to date, deal flow, we've closed 3. We've got 3 more in diligence. Those are gonna close. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is an angel group that actually does deals. Really excited about Saliva Systems. There's been some terrific angel-added diligence done from subject matter experts on that deal, as well as on innovative billboards. Better Frost is that odd deal that actually brought investors to our group. Just keep innovating, guys. You're doing it right. Was there a close that I missed that we need to toast today? Ed, you got news? All right, so this is the first month in several that we haven't had a close. But when we do, we toast the closing with a very special bottle of bourbon that we reserved just for that occasion, and it will be back next month. Craig, what did I miss? Oh, get up here, Brian. Innovative Bill. Close that now. I got to take it out of the diligence column. We have a close. Give it up for Brian Fowler. You did not wait for the patch. Now you see my secret ulterior motive. Brian?
Thank you.
For the success of your venture.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you.
What else are you looking at, Brian?
Slide systems as well.
Oh man, you're gonna be a serial up here. Slide also.
Yep. And pretty interesting.
Everybody's gonna get a survey and an email. Your email address as well. That asks what's your interest level in the presenting companies and in the update companies. This is the headwaters of the cat herding that we do in order to get a deal done. So if you're not interested in anything, tell me. If you're interested in anything, tell me. We're over time. Eat all the great snacks that we thank Liz and JP Ottaway for bringing our snacks and beverages today. May we run out. Thank you, Liz and JP. Who's with founders? Hold on one second. Raj?
Sure.